We're here with Dr. Bughara again, part two, um, talking about the new administration. I haven't read Macary's book, The Head, the new head. He's next on my list to read, but I'm reading Seaber Head Prasad, and we've just been talking about biologics and expensive cancer drugs that maybe don't offer very much benefit, except for on paper with the they're called surrogate endpoints, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's bad for research industry. It may, whether it's good for the taxpayer is another issue, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on what's going on here? There's a lot of chaos.
I know. I mean, the question is, how many policies will change and how fast will it change? And then God knows what the next administration would do. Would
Yeah,
they revert everything to the way it was or
yeah.
the way it is? And I,
Well,
I think next 4 years gonna be something we're just gonna have a rocky ride, I guess. We'll
so
figure it out.
I was looking at these charts. I don't know if I can find them to share the screen, but Dr. Due Diligence on X, he's like a biotech investor and he posted some due diligence. Basically, the last 2 decades, FDA approvals have been down, like steep decline. So even before this administration, they've been down. What's been on the rise until a few years ago are biologics. However, those now are kind of out of favor with the There's just too many. Something happens at the administration level when there's too many drugs doing the same thing and too much competition around the same area. You really need to start showing true benefit over
Mhm.
what's currently out there, especially if you're going to charge. And the FDA doesn't dictate pricing, at least they say, but they kind of influence it ultimately based on what gets approved and what doesn't.
Yeah, that of course, getting approval is one thing, and then it gets into the insurance side of the world, right? And
Yeah,
then, like, God
yeah.
knows, especially I think almost all of us nowadays are underinsured,
Yeah.
superly underinsured, where going to doctor is like, oh my God, how much am I gonna pay out of pocket? And
All of
this
it.
this biologics, yeah, this biologics and everything, it's just crazy pricing.
The large
Um,
molecules. But what do you think? I mean, you have things like GLPs, but now there's so many GLP. Everyone's trying something else now. GIP, GLP. I mean, you're the doctor, you know more than I. And now they're doing the combo. Does it work with this? Better for diabetes or heart disease? At some point, I don't know, does the party end for us researchers with these new wave and will there be something else or do you think this has still got some legs?
it still has some legs because obesity is one of those uh, I would say unmet need in a way. The obesity is a disease, right? I mean, even though we looked at more as a symptoms, but underlying disease process and everything, now we're more into figuring out, how are this affecting with various systems and all. So at the end of the day, uh, you're looking at weight loss is just a one symptom overall, the benefit of looking pretty, but when you look at in the background, you're talking about entire metabolic pathways changing crazily. And then now you're talking about weight loss means what other diseases go with the weight loss. It's a laundry list of
Hmm.
20 different things you will get affected. So
Yeah.
um, all of these molecules right now, like on the obesity side, you will have to prove that, hey, it's impacting these things directly, even though indirectly it is, but to go and get the favor out of the market, at the
Yeah.
larger scale, they want to have to do some studies like, no, no, ours is a little better because we
Well, it's pretty
also
tough now
reduce
to
osteoarthritis.
true. And they have it like these are we're starting to do the longer term studies too. So maybe that is good for research now that the shorter term studies, I mean, we've had a few at our site. maybe a handful, and they're pretty long. They're like year and a half. But maybe they start doing like 5 year long studies.
I mean, look at all the obesity drug will go to CVOT, right? Cardiovascular outcome
Yeah, yeah,
trials. So it will be pretty much automatically lengthened to 5 years in a way, just like all the diabetic drugs started going to CVOT,
yeah.
um, right? Cardiovascular outcome trials. So I think again, whether on a business standpoint it's a good thing or not, but uh, but the survival and the quality of life will improve significantly. The American people and maybe worldwide as well, given this molecule creating a lot more competition.
Now you've had last time we did the interview, I mean you still have, according to your LinkedIn, um the Oklahoma City site, and I noticed it's not new, but you also have a site in Dallas,
Yeah,
Epic Medical Research.
yes.
So
So
can you
we're at
kind of
10
tell
sites now.
us,
Yeah,
that one has 10 locations now.
right.
I see. And are
We're,
they
we're,
related to the Oklahoma ones, or Care First Wellness Associates, or is that as two separate companies?
two separate companies. So Care First Wellness Associates are the clinic side operations.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, okay.
Yeah, and then Dallas area we have clinics as well. Arizona had clinics. I sold it about a couple of months ago.
Ah,
Um,
okay. The clinic, not
and
research.
clinics, yeah, research is still there.
Did you
But
sell it
any
to
part
a
of
group
our
that does research, or did you sell it to a large health system, or?
no, it's a larger group. It's still independent primary
Okay,
care
okay,
practices. I think they have about 28 practices.
okay.
Um, but anytime we make this deal, I make it two ways. One is exclusive rights to do clinical trials on existing patient database that we owned. So we
Ah,
keep the
okay.
full database um, to have full access to it. And the second, we go exclusive rights or right of first refusal to do clinical trials with the larger companies. So if ever
Oh,
a
I
company
see.
decides to go on a clinical trials, they have to talk to me.
I see. So when you sold, like in that case, when you sold the group of private practices in Arizona, the acquirer doesn't do research, but you have access to the database for research. Do you do research there in Arizona, or is it,
Yeah,
it's,
we still do research in Arizona.
I see, I see. Is it
So
with
at
the
three
same,
location,
within the
so
same buildings as where you sold, or new, off-site?
we just last week we moved to different location because they wanted to merge their clinic in the area they had
I
like
got
three
you.
miles away, so they
I
needed
got
more
you.
space, and we didn't want to be uncomfortable since we don't own the clinic anymore.
Yeah.
So we stepped out to a newer location. So I had three locations in Arizona for Epic Medical Research. Um,
Wow. Okay. And
but
that's
again,
part of the group.
last time we talked about, if you remember, that guys like us would go in a smaller community and invest, and then
Yeah.
wait and watch the sponsors to come and take on. But we didn't have a good luck after almost a year or so. So we shut down our Kingman and Prescott location for
Uh,
trial side.
I've always wondered about Prescott, how it would do, because I have a doctor here in Yuma that is dying to go back to Prescott. And I told him, as soon as you go back, let me know. We try to do research. So there was not a market there?
No, just unfortunately
Uh,
didn't pan out. We got one trial on both location, but after that it was just
what was the reason, do you think?
uh, I don't know, maybe overall if you look at it, Arizona never have enough sites on
Well,
the
Phoenix has way
representation,
too
right?
many, I think.
But still, if you look at a big trial, you don't see typically Arizona on the list. You have heavy California, then Florida, and
Florida.
Texas,
Yeah.
and others, but Arizona is not that big. So
Interesting.
maybe it's just not the demographics that they want to bring in, even though Kingman would have been very, very nice to bring some Native Americans
Yeah, yeah,
to.
and that's up
We are
north,
in,
by the Nevada
yeah,
border.
yeah. We were in Mojave County.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but again, so we moved on. We closed that
Mm,
chapter.
okay.
We just invested the time and effort and capital somewhere else.
Dang. I always wonder, because I've had situations like that too in other locations. I always wonder if it's because it's hard to really assess N of one, what value. I mean, maybe they didn't like the doctor. There's a lot of variables that maybe we assign the blame to the city, but in reality it was something else.
So I think I don't think it's a blame to anyone, but I think at the same token, look, if you're going in this uh, community that research now, of course, your
Yeah.
doctors, your PI is not research,
Yeah. Yeah.
experience either, right? So
Yeah.
now you have a smaller town or smaller area that is logistically impossible to get from Phoenix in 30 minutes or something, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
any CRA will have to fly to Vegas or Phoenix and drive to, or Flagstaff and drive like
I
two
mean, you
hours, 3
can't
hours.
even get from Phoenix to Phoenix in 30 minutes, you know?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have experienced PIs either.
Right.
So your network name can carry only some value or weight, but
Mm.
it can't carry everything in those areas. So I think it's
Yeah.
a combination of things, but at some point you just say, how long can we wait?
Well, as
Uh,
someone that's
to
trying to
wait.
scale as well, like a network, I think that's what I wanted to have this conversation about because I think what you're doing is really interesting. Um, I always wonder, like, you're the owner operator, so am I. The difference is you're a PI as well, but obviously you're in the same situation as me. You can't be a PI in all your sites. So,
Correct.
in that regard, we're similar in that you cannot clone yourself. And so I always wonder, does it require, if I open a site somewhere where I don't live, does its success at some point require that I be there? And I mean, we would like to say no, but I think you have a better chance if, well, like someone like me or you is actually there. That's
Very
got to
true. I
account for
mean,
something. That has to be worth something.
absolutely. I think even being there just gives that boost, right? That you know what's happening, at least to begin with. But in our case, I have been fortunate that some of the people that surrounded me back in 2016 continue to be around me.
Mm.
So they know how I like to operate and all. So we're in the same mindset. So flying out, staying there for a week, two or so to get things done. And then, of course, when you have paper chart, it's a little difficult. Now it's CTMS, so you're remotely constantly doing a lot of quality monitoring and such. So it's a lot easier compared to I would have done it like 5 years ago, because I would ask CRC to scan every chart every day at the
Yeah,
end of the day to
yeah,
just do a monitoring visit, right? So in our case, we've been fortunate to have those people in a team. Um, but yeah, can clone ourselves, but definitely, uh, at some point we got to trust the somebody new face and train them to the point
sure, sure.
where they can be at some point act like you
Yeah,
and
of
take it in the
course we do.
business.
We trust, and I admire what you're doing with the tech side. Maybe we talk off camera, maybe on if you're comfortable, but off if you're more comfortable. But I think at least me, when I open a site somewhere where I'm not at, like right now, we're gonna try to
Mhm.
open one in Orange County with a PI. I know I'm not gonna be there, but I have somebody there, and I trust her. But if we were to do this in, South Arizona, let's say near the
Mhm.
border, I'm not gonna live there. I have somebody I groomed. I discount it because I know I'm not there, but if I can get at least 80% of me, like kind of what I do, I'd be okay with that. So you kind of discount your projections for that site, and maybe it'll surprise you. I've never really had a site surprise me in that regard for a sustained period. I've had it surprise me in a year or two, maybe they got a study here or there, but usually, and I think a lot of site operators that try to scale are going to run into this is, there's just a lot that we do that you cannot even put into a system. Like
Very true.
employee retention, if you're not, I know when my employees are planning to move, they tell me, hey,
Right.
I'm gonna move to San Diego. Okay, no problem. I'll try to help you get a job. But in the meantime, while you're here, how much months you got? Okay, three. I need you to randomize like crazy. If I'm somewhere else and I don't know this employee, you don't have that. And that's like extra revenue at the end of the day.
Very true. What I think, at the same token, what you're saying, you've been still, even though you're away, but being involved, right? So one thing for sure, like for example, you open a site in South Arizona, right to the border. Um, a site will not give you a study, right? It's your effort and everything will be the one to bring this study to the site. Now you put all these strategies around to say where do we find patients from, right? Is it the database only enough? Do we go market ourselves? So the coordinators can take your some of your strategies and go out there in the communities and meet people and be in the whatever chamber of commerce or whatever um,
Yeah.
could be beneficial, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's reporting back to you. So even you're not there, sometimes yes, you're not 100% there. They don't talk to you every single day, but you could manage that way a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then surprise visit, or maybe, hey, I'm coming over there. Let's just go over a few things and tell me what's been the issue. But what we also did as we scaled up, right? um, not every CRC or every employee within the company would be a great a salesperson in a way,
No.
who can actually make the subject or participants or volunteers understand the studies about and importance of it and all. So then you take this recruitment to centralized area, or those things that it doesn't really matter a whole lot whether it's local or away from the local site. Then now you're giving coordinator a lot more leeway to just focus on patient visits
Yeah.
and the quality work and recruitments, by them reaching out to some local people. But centralized, you can handle it a lot more on your own.
Have you have you centralized your operate like streamlined your operations? So do you have are your coordinators more generalist or are they you do regulatory, you do recruitment, you do the study visits? How do you have that structured?
So our coordinator is a lot more focused on study visits, and day-to-day regulatory. Initial startup and all that's been done by centralized
Let's see.
study startup and regulatory people. And then it passed over to say, hey, everything is ready. We're looking at site initiation visit. Of course, they're going to finish their trainings and everything. And when it comes down to SIV, we have our centralized recruitment, start logging into our own databases and start identifying patients and get them ready. Um, if we're shorthanded, we're working on very heavy protocol somewhere else that has a very small recruitment window. We give some portion of that work to the CRCs.
Yeah.
In their free time they can do that, but otherwise we're really requesting them to do more study focused work.
Okay. I don't have the centralized yet. We only have the one site with soon to be the Orange County, but I think that's clear that that's next. Even though, I mean, coordinators like that, I think, better because they don't like regulatory usually. They like, if you ask my staff, they all prefer patient visits more than anything else.
Okay.
But it's also bad for that, and I tell them this. It's also bad for you and your skill set because you're not learning to be a generalist. Like it's, it's
And
maybe it's good for me, but right now we're doing all generalists, but the next wave that comes in, I think it's clear it's going to be easier to fit into some kind of streamlined role, but philosophically, I don't know. I give them the chance, but I think it's like bad for them in the long run.
so our regulatory, our QA, all those people actually were a coordinator at some point, right?
Okay.
As they stayed with us and like, you know what, I'm actually interested more in this kind of a role rather than being a coordinator or something.
Right.
Sure,
Right.
let's develop that. Let's have you develop in that, focus on those. But we opened up everything to our coordinator, whatever they want to do. But at the end of the day, the core business is for them to really take care of the visits.
Yeah.
Um, every single person that gets hired within our company, actually, regardless what part of the world they are, they fly out or they're actually in Dallas at the main location. They spend minimum 2 weeks hands-on.
Mm.
um, they're going to go through some basic training, but hands-on check off list to make sure they know what we're talking about.
Oh
So
wow.
it's a little easier for us to bring in, research dive individual to be a coordinator. Um, so
Yeah.
that thing is definitely helpful when you take out the generalist and now they're making them more study focused,
Right.
because they can grasp that knowledge very quickly versus you put them across the board and it'll take some time for them to grab the knowledge. So as you said, if you're a coordinator living in 3 months, there's no way in a 3 months, first of all, in your town like Yuma or maybe even a small town in Oklahoma, you can't find coordinators that are seasoned and they know
No.
exactly because
There's nobody.
one
All the
they don't
experienced
exist,
researcher
right?
are in Yuma, in my site.
Right.
That's all
They
there
don't
is.
exist.
No.
And then second thing, if they exist, they come with their own bag,
Yeah.
right? This is how I done it. And then again, you're in dire need. You have no choice but to
Mhm.
hire anybody who walks in at that point because you're looking at the time is
Yeah.
ticking or clock is ticking, right? So having very specific tasks helps you get them
Onboard it
up and
quicker.
running
I think you're right.
very
Yeah, I mean, you
quickly.
make a good point. Rather than teaching them everything, the first thing I used to do, not in Yuma, but at my other site in Orange County, was first day you file things in a reg binder, back before we had Creo. And
Mhm,
I felt like that was at least they're learning what the things are, where they go. It's pretty simple to do. Eventually, you start data entry. Pretty soon, you start helping in the lab, spinning blood, and then you're kind of doing a generalist, right? But it take like three
mhm.
months. But you bring a good point of 2 weeks if you focus just on the visits for a particular study or two. I think it is a faster onboarding.
Yeah, and if it's a one or two studies, right? If smaller side, 1, 2 studies that they're going to be working on or adding their hands on,
Mm,
to support other coordinator, it's a lot quicker. And we're doing hands on, off, checking off the boxes to make sure
yeah,
they know exactly. So it's not like, oh, I fly back to Arizona tomorrow or Yuma
yeah,
and say, oh, I didn't know what that means. No, 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 we went through that and you actually had a hands-on, you were actually in a subject room with the other
yeah.
coordinator to say how to do fibroscan or hey, how to transfer EKG
Or a
to
DEXA or a
central
body
like
comp or
DEXA.
something.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, how do you separate at my site, we have the lead CRC, and then we have four other CRCs, and then we have a QA person that's remote. So we do have some elements of centralization. But how do you distribute studies, and like what's the average workload per coordinator as far as studies are concerned? Uh, just to see how compare with how I'm doing it here.
So there is some days I feel like I figured everything out. And then 6 months later, I say, maybe we should do it differently a little bit. And good thing is everybody's flexible.
I
Uh,
do that all
but
the
so
time, and they hate it.
Right. So in our case, it's very simple. We have, main coordinator will have maybe two little faster or a little higher enrolling studies, and a couple of them will be laid back studies. So on an average, we have um,
Okay.
four studies, but then they will have three or four different hands in it if they need help from.
Yeah.
So new structure we're putting in, we did it in the past, but it kind of got diluted a little bit. Is between two coordinator, we're going to give them a research assistant. So research
Okay.
assistant can do a lot of hands-on while they
Yeah,
are
yeah.
actually doing a lot more critical thing. So between two coordinator, one a research assistant. So now between three of them, they will be doing about 8 studies combined. It may look
Gotcha.
big, 8 studies, but out of
No.
them, maybe three fast enrolling,
Yeah.
and then other coordinators who don't have anything crazy enrolling, they will be as a backup. So when the enrollment period is over, they will be taken off the delegation log pretty quick after that, and they will go into maintenance phase at that point.
I see. Yeah.
So two coordinator, one research assistant. So you're actually getting the most out of the coordinator in terms of their value.
That's not bad.
Um, a research assistant, typically you get medical assistant and they will know
Yeah.
how to draw blood, spin the blood, all those things. So it comes in very handy.
Vitals. Yeah, yeah. That's not a bad thing. It's similar. We do two coordinators per study, and then each coordinator gets like about four studies, like you said. But they're paired, and nobody is the primary. They're both the primary. That way, if somebody's gone, somebody else is still there. It's unlikely they're both gone the same day. And then there are backups, but that's kind of how we've been doing it. And the next thing is to put an admin, which we had one. He became a nurse now, so he went to school and became a nurse. I think we're gonna get an admin to help with that stuff too. It's pretty similar, pretty
And
similar.
so, right. So we do primary coordinator because at the end of the day, responsibility will go back to the primary coordinator.
Somebody, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Somebody has to take that ownership.
yeah,
So if they're asking for somebody's help within the other coordinator's help, they still got to make sure the work
yeah.
is getting done properly.
Hmm.
Um, so we still like to have the primary coordinator, and then a backup would be a secondary coordinator, and then you have.
Yeah,
So we're fortunate we have a lot of those. So we some delegation log we load them about 8, 9 coordinators on a study,
yeah.
especially if it's gonna go fast.
Sure.
And then 6 or 7 of them will fall off pretty quick after the
Okay.
enrollment is over, and then those two main guys will take over.
You know
Yeah.
what I found though? I mean, we just switched to this two coordinators. There is no prime, and they don't know. Hopefully, they're not watching. Somebody always takes the lead. And if this person is consistently doing that and someone's consistently not, it tells me when it's time to review, you know, y- you're letting other people take the lead. Or I start getting complaints. Well, I thought we're both in charge, but what's going on? We have Document for all that now. We use Monday. I know you're big in software too. That's the reason why I switched to that. I got tired of people complaining. This person doesn't help me, this one. Okay, you're both in charge, and I kind of see what's going on, but I'm like you, I switch things up all the time. And then
Yeah,
people
it's
complain, they get confused. Oh, what are you doing? I'm confused. Well, don't be confused.
smaller team is a little easier,
Yeah.
but when your team is growing fast, it's a little
Yeah.
tricky. Like
Yeah.
who to blame, right? And in the
There's always
review,
somebody to blame.
both of them will say, "Oh, I thought he's the primary or she's the
Yeah.
primary." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, no, I thought other way around." Versus,
Yeah.
this is your trial. I don't care who you want your team, but these are the three people who will
Yeah.
actually be with you under your team.
Yeah.
And like, no, 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 I would rather have other one because of the either the language or whatnot.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, um, for the patients that we're going to be enrolling. So we give them preference there. But at the end of the day, we need somebody to be primary to answer
Yeah.
monitoring visits. And then we have a manager on top, um, who's also available to get on a delegation log anytime needed.
Yeah.
But they will be looking over, or at least first point of contact for them to go to quick and says, "Hey, I'm having a little difficulty with this protocol," and then we'll just put some plan together to navigate those.
Yeah, yeah. We have a lead CRC as well for the whole site. And then I'm in charge of her. So if there's issues, they go to her first, who she's supposed to. I tell her you're responsible for all the studies here. And then all these people, they're here, they're sharing studies, whatever. It's tough, man. That's the part where I don't think back to the human and not being able to clone ourselves. You have to be very careful who you're putting in charge of running your site, especially if you're not there, because these politics, even with a team of four, you can get drama, more drama than a soap opera, and over nothing. I've had to show up over like the most trivial things. And when I get there, I'm like, why am I here? You guys need to figure this out. I can't imagine if I wasn't here, what would happen, you know? That's what scares me about scaling is really the human element.
I mean, anybody we have made in charge, they get to hear from me for 5 minutes before I take that decision, and we would do interim upgrade on their title.
Mhm.
And one thing is, you got to promise me there's no friends for you here anymore.
Mm.
Uh, and if you feel like you're gonna have friends here, I don't think you're right for this position. And then we typically give 3 months run,
When
and
you
we
promote
see,
someone to run.
yeah, right.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we give them interim title and say, look, this person is gonna be interim this. Let's give it, you know, 3 months and see if we really get the value out of it. If not, hey, we're not losing the person, right? Because sometimes you promote them and then like, what do we do with them, right? So we just put them back to where they were.
You put them back, but
Uh,
then they get mad, and then they're like, "Yeah, I'm pissed with Dr. Bakhara, and he doesn't think
they
I'm a
can,
good
but
manager, and blah blah blah."
at the same time, it's better to still be there rather than gone, right? So,
I think
uh,
so.
but I think it's a good understanding at the end of the day, and we're
But who
promoting
manages
a lot of
those people? Is that you, or is there someone else?
no, so we still have another. So then we have a director of ops come in,
I got you.
and
I don't
then
have that yet.
so we are company wide. We did executive VP, and then we have a VP of ops, one on clinical side who's managing everything related to the study related
For all the
protocols
sites.
make sure, yeah, all the sites. And then other side we have VP of ops on non-clinical side, so that's where you have recruitment, the budgets, and payables and
Ah,
finance and HR
okay.
and all those things. So
So you have VP of clinical, VP of non-clinical.
correct.
I like that. I didn't
and
actually
then
never
the
heard of that before.
and then underneath they have their own managers for each department if department is big enough. But so QA, QC, and everything goes on a clinical side. So non-clinical guy doesn't go there and says, "What are you doing?"
Hmm.
You
Do you
stay in
ever
your
worry
lane. You
though?
just
Do you ever worry the more structured you make it, the more you start turning into the NIH, which is full of waste and bureaucracy?
only if I would be a PI, But if I'm still the operator at heart, these guys can't move much around. They still have to. They know I'm watching
So
every
you're
single day,
watching.
and I'm very involved.
Okay.
Even though when the time comes for taking responsibilities, I want them to do it. But at the end of the day,
How do you
it,
feel when somebody tells you that's not my job?
and I said, "Have a sit down here with me. Tell me what
That's
your
like one
jobs
of my
are."
least favorite. I try really at the interview process. If I sense that that's coming out, I'm not hiring that person. But every now and then it comes out, and you need to sit down with that person and tell them, listen, this is everybody. We're a team. Once you have those talks, it seems to work. But That's what I worry about adding so many layers, is people start getting very stubborn in what their role is.
The fun part is how we grew our divisions is everybody knows everyone very
Still,
closely.
still,
Yeah,
how, what,
still.
even if the sites are not anywhere near each other, like,
Again, the biggest bonding that we do is the first 2 weeks of them coming on board,
yeah.
right? And then we have a weekly meeting with every site to make sure the clinical sites guy do their clinical meeting, non-clinical do their
Oh,
own.
study what site, what, all the sites.
Right. And we don't stretch it more than 15 minutes, only 2 or 3 agendas on it, no nonsense of wasting time. But around the same time, we're celebrating, we're acknowledging their work and all those good stuff. So they're
So those
still
meetings are like
connected
Zooms where everybody has to come on, even from
and have
RAs to everybody.
that is correct. And everybody has to have a camera on.
Yeah, but that camera off stuff is, no one's paying attention if camera's off.
Right. So everybody stays camera on, and we don't make it very boring. It's very straightforward. And then we leave it on 15 minutes, just have everybody fun, talk about stuff,
That's good.
sharing stuff, and again, this clinical or non-clinical guys are because some of this, most of this time in your first study, we're getting it has to be more than one location. So
Hmm.
investigator meetings, they get together, or flying out, they actually meet them in person.
SOS conference maybe. It's kind of
I
hard to
this
fly
year
everybody out.
Dang, this year I missed out
I
on,
know, I
and I
missed
was
you,
on a
man. I
cruise.
miss. Oh, okay, I
Yeah,
can't blame you on that.
yeah,
That's better.
I
Better
mean,
you use.
wife decided I have to be on a cruise, so there's
Nah, it's
nothing I
okay.
can
But
do.
yeah, like conferences like that, I mean, these are things I worry about, and you're scaled way beyond me, and whenever I get a chance to talk to someone like you, I ask these weird questions because I think I'm trying to do something similar, and I know other people listening and watching are also have the same questions. Like,
I
we're
done the
trying to
same
do it
thing,
without the PE, trying to grow without private equity if we can.
right? I mean, it's doable. If
Yeah.
I can do it, everybody else can do it for sure.
No, but you seem to have it
Especially
down. Like, is this a lot of trial and error that you found this model, or you just read some books, or like how did you come up with it?
the last thing I do in my life is read books. I think I did enough in med school and got so much to it, and like no. So I do audiobooks, of course.
Yeah,
If I do any more, it's the audiobooks,
I
and
gotta send you
but the
this one, croissant.
biggest thing what I learned over the yeah, please. What I learned over the time is I started with one clinic back in 2017, and learn every single thing in the clinic
Was
is
that
how to
Oklahoma?
check in a patient. No, in Dallas.
Oh, Dallas. Okay.
And then 15 months later, figure out where the dollar is in a clinic, right? Work nights to pay the bills. But what it taught me was every single small aspect of the operation. You expect to hire somebody from outside. They've been holding titles. Oh, I manage this many people. But if they never got their hands dirty, it's
Yeah,
very hard for them to understand.
yeah,
And those are the people that I hired over the time, that they had got their hands dirty somewhere, whether it's with me coming on board initially, and now they're just part of the journey overall. So then scaling those clinic to 10 within 2 years taught me a lot about, trusting people. And some point, we got to let it go. I mean, you look, if your margin is 50% where
yeah,
you are, you gotta settle at 30. But it's okay. Um, that's a part of the game, and it's just how it is. So over the years, that's how we're skilled. We're skilled,
yeah.
and look, worst case
The more
scenario, just like
management you put, the less the margins, but because they're not
right, and
really contributing, but they're more like defensive, but you're supposed to scale quicker. Yeah.
but the
That's
managers you also want to put in, it's the people that know your philosophy, right?
Yeah.
I can't just put it on, hire somebody, come
No,
out
no,
nowhere and like,
no.
boom, philosophy is completely different.
Yeah.
So it works out well. I mean, working, owning clinics in 3 states and in research sites in 3 states and investing in a software side quite a bit teaches a lot. Uh,
That's the
and
part.
it's a fun part.
So if you're comfortable talking about your tech stack? Last time we discussed, you made your own, and do you want to share that, or you want to save that for
I mean,
after?
I can definitely give you something,
Yeah. Like, how
and
do you
then we can
manage all
do it.
this? We just discovered Monday.com. It's amazing. I could see everyone what they're doing. I tag them. I keep them more accountable. I have a newborn, so I don't go every day anymore. I actually don't go even every week anymore, believe it or not. But Monday's been helpful with that. Also, we've not been that busy.
Yeah, so CRM side, we were using Pipedrive mainly for BD, but we got rid of it because there were so many things that were missing on the BD. So, last quarter of 2024, when everybody was like chilling because we were all expecting huge projects and got delayed or canceled, we had to find something to do. So we redesigned some of the workflows and all and say, hey, we need to make something, the software side that makes our life easy. So three things that we developed in last 6 months um, is one is a AI-based patient recruitment. So it's a real AI base. Uh, so either your own patients you upload from your database go through a quick, and what we did is not just a simple text message, it goes with your flyer in it. So people recognize that this is you, your brand. So it's brand recognition, brand marketing as well. On top of this is the same flyer anywhere else they may see. So if you're advertising on social media, they're like, oh, I saw them. Because Yuma, for example, smaller area,
Yeah, yeah.
everything will be circulating like, oh yeah, I can trust them what they are.
Right.
And then 24/7 availability of answering
How do you get that?
um, through AI.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
right. And then, so the AI also designed in a way that it blinds the information about molecule and about the sponsor. So you can ask any question related to the trial and you get an answer from AI. Like how many visits, how much blood drawn. I'll
I
love to show you
see.
one
I
day. And
see.
they're like, oh my
I
God.
would too.
Um,
We do patient ACE, but it doesn't have, it has the auto texting and the replying, basic replying, but this sounds like another level.
so this is then we what we did most recently, we say, okay, we need to start doing the calls as well. So we're built in Twilio inside, so do calls directly from the portal, but we're bringing AI agent calls as well. So it's in a pipeline. So within the software, so if you as a Dan, this is Epic Medical Research AI assistant, and if you're interested in our flu trial, for example, or vaccine trial, and you say, "Yep, I'm interested. Would you prefer a call or a text to answer a few quick questions?" And like, call. Okay, AI will call you. Or you go just to text. So you, as a site, very quickly can build your study, like two inclusion, three inclusion, or two exclusion, the key one,
Right, right,
and then AI will qualify them
right.
very quickly
Pre-qualified.
based
Yeah.
upon that, right? Pre-qualify, and then they will give you option based upon your calendar. Whoever is the recruiter,
Right, right, right.
a calendar is open. Say, hey Dan, you have a 9 a.m., 9:30, 9:45 tomorrow. Oh, I want
Interesting.
7 p.m. Sure. So 7 p.m. somebody will call you. So
I
we
see.
did our recruitment all the way to 10 p.m.
I see. We
And but
have
at night you're browsing, sitting on a couch watching a nice or changing a diaper
yeah.
of a newborn.
Yeah.
And you say, "Oh, I'm interested in this study." So again, human nature, right? Instant
Yeah,
gratification,
yeah.
instant answering. That's what the fast food. restaurants doing very well because I want something in 2 minutes. So if you apply something on social media, AI will take over very quickly. So you've been attended within 10 seconds. So you feel good, right?
Hmm.
So we're keeping that motto of you having been very interested in the trial and get a first thing in the morning, having a live recruiter call you and just walk you over.
I see.
We built in, or we're almost in the last stage of finalizing the production environment is built in a DocuSign in there too.
On
So you're
your own tool that you're.
no, so DocuSign we're just bringing into
Oh,
AI tools.
oh,
So
oh,
now
oh,
you're
got you, got you.
interested, you're gonna get a link to sign off your HIPAA and all good stuff, so we can request medical records as well.
Okay.
Um, so that's an AI tool, and you can send 500 people a message right at one time, and it will constantly upgrade and see how many calls been booked, how many do not qualify. So we have a lot of buckets we created.
Yeah,
Some of them that are non-taxable number, things like that, because sometimes people using the landline or maybe the number has been
sure,
disconnected or
sure.
something.
Yeah.
So AI recognizes that. Um, it's a cool, very cool tool. And the integration is through Meta or Facebook, integration through your Microsoft Office calendar as well. So now you have a 2, 3 calendars, the appointment will show up. An appointment has, of course, the basic information about you and a phone number to call directly from.
Are you guys thinking of selling this to other sites, or have you
You
done
know,
it yet?
so first of all, we wanted to maximize the potential of it internally to make sure
Yeah.
before we scale it. Um, at some point, I'm thinking commercializing it, but not sure when.
Okay.
And if I commercializing, it's gonna be more for the help. Not gonna be a lot about, hey, let's just get as much as money out we can. So we will likely either do a per book call or something, or per message 5 cents or something like that. So
Mm.
it's a little easier, not too much heavier on a smaller sites.
Yeah.
Um, but haven't decided the functionality of the pricing and all. But right now we're adding all the functionality internally that I want for myself to have it ready so I can
Beyond
tell
recruitment,
others to
or is
use
it
it.
just focused on the recruitment, or
This
you
is
have?
for recruitment, and then we built something internally AI tool as well for BD,
Okay.
business development, sourcing trial through various different pools of converting. So if you're the CTM for ABC Pharma, but we don't know your email address, so we put the tool together to give us your email address to
To figure it
linking
out.
everywhere, figure
Yeah.
it out, connected with LinkedIn,
Naming
so we can
conventions and all that works in our favor.
uh, crazy good software. So now we're moving all the infrastructure internally, and at a click you can send email to anybody,
Yeah.
and it's a very nice way to and follow-ups. So it's more of a Monday on steroid
Yeah,
for
Monday
BD.
the CRM for Monday I haven't used because that's an extra tier. I haven't paid for it. I just paid for the basic project management tier, which is pretty cool. It's like a to-do list, but with ability to upload files and tag people, and it's like a mix between Slack and project management tool. So I haven't used the CRM. I know they have one. I'm not as interested because we kind of have um, biz dev through my other company with Chris
Mhm.
DSCS. So that's our unique thing. We don't really need to worry about. But that's what I like Monday for was I felt like I needed more control over what was happening because we got to the point with all these studies, I don't even know what's going on. I mean, nobody, if you're not there asking, no one's telling you. So now we mandate you're on Monday logging in, what's going on, what you're doing, just the important stuff, not like the little details. But it's been going good. Everyone seemed to like it.
Right. In my case, I know every single study in the
How?
company wide what's running. Because
Well,
the
you know
initial
the name, like
discussion,
the indications, but you don't know like the details.
I do protocol review as well. So because again,
How many do you have? What are you, an AI?
I mean, not that I know every single definition of everything in every protocol, but if a PI calls me and say, "Hey, I'm stuck a little bit," at least I will guide them through easily because I know this study a little better
Mm,
than just, "Oh my God, what study are you talking about? When did we get that?"
yeah,
Um, Instead,
that's
at least
true.
I have that knowledge. And two, likely 90% of the PSVs that involves the company wide, I actually jump in.
Seriously?
Um,
Wow.
yeah, even though with mainly inclusion exclusion time frame or
Right,
maybe
right.
vendors, things like that.
Will
So
you
we're very
fly
well
there or
prepared
will
in a
you
way.
ask one of the coordinators to zoom you in?
No, typically I mean Zoom me in or we use
Yeah, yeah.
Microsoft, so a lot of them that let
Okay.
us get into that very easily. But
Teams
yeah,
me
so
in.
it's yeah, Teams, man, Teams. And then
Wow.
third software we created is to the lab for the lab. So sample really management in a way, because right now, I mean, as we grew, we noticed some of the time like samples been shipped out, but then we get to understand that it was not stabilized or
I hate that.
wasn't properly packed or anything. So what we did is we created a sample, the whole tool for the lab where they just scan the barcode or the label prior to them. So packing, take a picture of the packing, uh, pack the shipment or sample, put the sticker, take a picture of it, and then tracking number goes with it. So exactly the whole history gets pulled in from UPS or
Mhm,
FedEx
mhm.
um, about how the sample really got processed and has a pictures of the sample.
Yeah, that
Uh,
stabilized. I mean, we just had one that crushed me because got this patient in last minute. We got approval out of window for everything, and they said, yeah, the lab was received not stabilized. And the coordinator was like, I swear I put plenty of dry ice in there. I don't know why they're doing that, but that's a screen failure that shouldn't have happened.
yeah, so we had the same issue happen a few times, given multiple studies happening at different locations. So we say, you know what? I don't wanna blame anybody, but at the same token, we gotta have some idea how you pack the shipment.
But what does
So
that do? Because you're not gonna be able to, even if you track it and something happens, like the central lab says, oh, it was received unstable, you're
no, but
not,
at least right. So in your case, let's say your coordinator said, I put enough dry ice,
okay, okay.
right?
Yeah,
But but there's no picture of it,
yeah,
right? So we're taking the picture, actually making it an inventory somewhere.
I
So
see.
if ever look and the coordinators change,
Yeah,
right? CRS change.
yeah,
So they may have a verbal conversations, but really didn't pan out on paper somewhere.
yeah.
Right? What happened to that sample? Like here is the entire history of the shipment with pictures. So
It,
it's
I
instead of
suppose it would help.
just
Yeah,
delivered, not delivered, forget about that piece. Who
yeah, yeah.
cares about that? That's a tracking number always available. So here we just made it easier. So if you log into the portal, you just click the tracking number, shows exactly, and then it has a pictures of the shipment as well.
Interesting. Okay,
So
that's really
take a
cool.
picture of the tubes, and this is iPad based, so it's all this getting stored in the same patient database
And you have
constantly.
iPads at the site that is everyone uses there,
Right,
or
at the lab level, we just have one sitting around, or maybe even they use their phone, boom, take a picture, it
okay,
just gets
okay.
uploaded easily there. And so ever there is a query comes in, and it's like, oh, you have a sample issues because labs have, oh, no, here are the pictures.
So it's more of a defensive measure in case a sponsor says, "What's your issues with all these samples?" You can
Right.
now
So
say,
because what can you do? Like, oh, we train them. Okay, it happens again. How do you train them again?
yeah, and I
Same
swear
thing.
the majority of those are the fault of the central lab.
It
I
is. It
swear to
is.
God, man.
We know that, right? But question is, who's central lab?
And how do you
You
prove it?
don't you don't know any human there.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
CRAs doesn't know any human there. So they will just back and forth on email with CTM and everybody involved. But at the end of the day, there's nothing to prove because the person who's really accepting the sample just
Yeah,
saying, I'm not in a mood to run the sample today.
exactly.
I'm
Somebody
just gonna
receives it on a
say
Saturday.
unstabilized.
Exactly. And they don't care if no one's getting randomized. It pisses me off so much. This happened at least 3 times this year on different studies, and it's like happened to the worst people. Like these patients, the study was made for these patients, and
That
it always happens to those patients.
yeah. So I think at some point, like how much can you defend? Versus, hey,
Yeah.
here are the pictures. Look at it. I mean, is a tube not filled? Do you see the package was full of dry ice?
Wow.
Things like that. So we decided, and what time been picked up and everything. Because
Wow.
sometimes it's just not showing up until they register in their system, but
So
they
the
got picked up
pictures
at 3 p.m.
automatically upload to your
Right,
software. They get labeled already because it
right.
records
So
the.
when they put it in, they put it in subject ID, and then all the pictures go into subject ID, including you know, let's see this happens where you ship the sample out on Friday with the
Always
Saturday
happens.
sticker on it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you get update on Monday. They got the sample not stable enough to run anything, of course. But you said we put the Saturday sticker, but you have no proof.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have no picture of it,
Right. And in
right?
research, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. You're
Exactly.
right. You're right. It used to be not cost effective to do this, but now that these tools are getting cheaper and better, it's becoming, we're at the inflection point where it actually is realistic.
And the smaller site doesn't have to develop any tools like this. They can just simply get an iPad and take a picture of the samples and just leave it
Yeah.
there as a somewhat part of the source document.
Yeah.
So it's a little easier
You're
some
just
days
giving
because I
coordinator
always,
more work, but I guess,
but taking a picture may not be huge work, but at least you have it for that
yeah.
day that you
Yeah.
did that. So they're not,
Wow.
you're not scolding them by any means, like what happened, the samples and
Yeah,
all. They
yeah,
say,
yeah.
I did it. Look here, then it's all there with the
Yeah.
Saturday sticker on it.
Hmm.
Now they didn't deliver on Saturday and they did instead of Monday. So at least, look, it's a protocol deviation, whatever we will take the blame, but at least we did the right
Yeah.
thing, but we're still
Yeah.
kind enough to take a blame.
At least you have, yeah. And
So
maybe,
at least something for the CRC to defend themselves that they did it right.
right.
If they did it wrong, look, Central Lab will never tell you, hey, here is how we received it, right? All they said it's unstable because we
Right.
received out of temperature or window, whatever it is. So
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
this one say, look, we learned. I should have put more dry ice. Next time I'm gonna add another 2 pound instead of what I had. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's a learning point. So I think smaller sites it should develop something like that. But just taking a picture, we take picture all day long. Might as well take 2 pictures of a sample. It's a little easier. You
It
don't have
is.
to have a full automated tracking system and everything. You don't need it, but at
Right.
least taking a picture helps.
You have proof. Yeah, that's so smart actually. You don't use anything like Monday internally? Like how to track people's studies and progress and
No, so we whatever we develop internally now, we also built in the project management a little bit in it. But
mm,
I like to do face to face, and I'm
mm.
always open to do very quick 5 minutes. Sit down and say, walk me through 3 studies you have. What do you need help with, or whatever it is.
So you'll randomly pick somebody, a staff member, and say, hey,
Everybody gets picked every week. It's
oh,
just
so you
matter
have a
of
one-on-one with
yeah.
everyone every week?
At least the majority of us in Dallas area will have one-on-one with me.
Wow. So how many is that per week, one-on-ones on average?
About 20 plus.
Wow. I'm
But
complaining with 6.
it's a 5 minutes. 5 minutes, right?
Well, mine are
At
not
least
5 minutes. They go for an hour.
so for us, look, we discussed this last week. I haven't seen anything. What do you need from us? Oh, I think, we just didn't have a lab kits. Well, I'm sorry, but do you not know as a CRC how many lab kits you have? So then they have a tracking of the lab kits, and
That's
I make
such
them.
a That's what I get all the time too. Not enough lab kits. Well, what do you mean? Like where are you gonna get them from? They don't drop from the sky.
Exactly, and then they don't drop up when you need them a week later. You gotta sometime 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Do
So
you guys use
so
Slope for
having
that, or how the lab kit tracker Slope?
we don't.
No.
No, right now they're all doing their own Excel.
Okay.
Coordinators do it on their own
Okay.
because we don't want to have it to centralize somebody's responsibilities for that.
So you go one on one with everyone, all of your staff basically every week, at least 5 minutes, and you touch on, and you'll remember from last time, like what that person told you. Like, do you take notes
They have
yourself,
to
or do
write it
you?
down. They have to write it down.
Oh, okay, okay.
Like these are the three things we're gonna discuss next week, so keep it handy.
Okay.
Um, Now admin stuff and all, it's constantly we're in touch. So
Sure,
all day,
sure.
that's what I'm doing. So I don't need them to have one-on-one
Right,
constantly
right.
with me, but more the clinical team.
Yeah.
Got to make sure, like, PIs, I just drop in their office and say, how are things going? Anything that we need to work on, do
Yeah, with the
better, things
PIs,
like
I feel like you have to kind of be more careful with that one. But with the staff, with the regular staff, you have to, yeah, you can do the one-on-ones. I try to do meetings with my PIs too, just to show them that I'm still involved. But pre-screening is the hardest one, like keeping people honest. How many did you pre-screen this week? Well, how do I know? Did you actually go? Did you go to that doctor's office? Why? Oh,
that.
okay, you're gonna go next week? Okay.
But
That's
see,
usually
when you give these things to CRCs, right, on top of other 100 training coming
right,
in for the study,
right.
it's very, very hard to keep them engaged, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, are they gonna try to finish the timeline to get the SIV done,
Mm-hmm.
or site activation, or they're gonna work around to log into EMR or go to office and find patients? So for those, we have the recruiters just do all those things. So I think
Yeah.
CRCs don't have a lot of excuses at that point. More than excuses, I think they don't have too much in their plates to wander around, and they rather stay focused.
Do the CRC schedule their own visits or someone schedules it for them?
So initial visits are all scheduled by anyone in a company. So if I'm walking around and I find somebody I talk to at Walmart about a study,
Yeah.
it's my job to make sure they get on a schedule for 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay. Okay.
So
And
I'll,
then
I'll ask somebody to help me put them on, or
and those are
I may just go
pre-screening
on.
or screening. Anyone can do that.
Right. Pre-screenings all initially phone calls to start with, and then we graduate
Okay.
them to come on site for maybe a blood draw quick to check to make sure that they have it, and then they go on a screening,
I
so a
see.
little less screen fill.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think the more streamlined you have, the better. I think the recruitment is the next thing we have to do. And
So we're still learning,
yeah,
right? Every
yeah.
day is a new challenge in a way. More than a challenge, I like to have it a lot more efficient. I say, look, uh, I mean, if we can maximize everybody's potential and
Yeah.
let them grow, why not? So I always look for efficiency.
Do you
Um,
think a coordinator can ever be replaced by AI?
Answer is no. Simple answer is no.
Why?
Because I mean, there's so many moving pieces that AI cannot put to, especially. Look, if you're saying back in 2010, could AI come at that point and replace coordinator? I think it was easier that way to replace them at that point. Now it's a lot more difficult because you have 100 vendor portals to deal with, and scales and all those things that didn't exist before.
Hmm.
E-diaries, constantly reminding the patients. It's real coordination, and you still have the face-to-face approach that you really need.
Yeah.
because AI could bring patient in the door, but whether
Once
to
they're there.
retain them, yeah,
Yeah,
once
once
they're
they're
there,
there.
you gotta have a human factor coming in to, because patients have to feel comfortable as well. AI doesn't make them comfortable.
Right. I'm wondering, I agree with you. I'm just wondering if 5, 10 years from now, an MA with the AI software can do a visit, and then the MA doesn't really need to know much about the study, just following the instructions.
I mean, if, for example, even today with eSource, right?
Yeah,
You have everything nicely done, the eSource wise. You don't need your MA to know every single thing about this
right.
study
If it's
because
designed
it's very,
properly. If
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
designed very nicely, or you have a diagram of what to do at what
Hmm.
and what are the points, like wait for 5 minutes between EKG and vital signs, sitting to
Yeah.
standing to sit down, whatever it is. I mean, your MA can do it. eSource is definitely a lot easier because you have a step by
Yeah.
step. Yeah, AI could help improve the efficiency, but I don't think it can replace. And at least not FDA looks at it as a
Yeah.
brighter point to have AI come in and actually replace the human
Not yet,
touch.
but this new administration, they're wild. They love AI too.
I, I I I think they're learning too. It's
I think they're
just like
learning, yeah.
we learn, right?
Sure,
We see and they're seeing. I think everybody's frustrated about inefficiency,
of
right?
course. Well,
I mean, back in
everyone except
2000,
CRO make their money off the inefficiency. Their inefficiency is excellent for CRO.
but I think speaking from what I know over the years, CROs under pressure too to deliver, right?
Well,
Because
sure.
even though they're big CROs, there are smaller CROs, but you could develop something on your own and go to sponsor and says, I can, previously, if you look at it, all CROs, I mean, sponsor was using only one CRO for a study, A to Z,
Right.
right? Now, if you look at it, some of the sponsors are using 3 or 4 different CROs for portion of this study. Like maybe it's a
Right.
budget contract and a finance,
Right.
or the vendor management, or maybe
Right.
monitoring separately. A lot of different ways to do it now. So I think everybody is under pressure in a way that they gotta deliver properly and a cost efficient, yeah, and everybody's again trying to fit into AI world to see what they can do.
Yeah. I hope that's the case. I think that's the case because but you never know. I mean, if this stuff keeps getting as powerful as everyone says, yeah, that's a whole nother podcast perhaps. It's not just
But I
our
mean,
industry.
if you look at it, networks getting stronger, right, with tons of equity, private equity, and
Sure,
and
sure.
such, right? So they're also pushing sponsor to offload some of the work to them
Of
to
course.
reduce the efficiency, right? So
What's
of
a
course
QA person
CROs,
could be a great monitor too.
exactly, right?
And yeah,
So that's where CROs are also feeling pressure.
sure, of course. And they're buying sites but they're also innovating on the tech side, so if you marry those two things, that's a lot to
If all the
ponder.
techs can talk to each other, it'd be nice for a CRO standpoint.
At some point, I think.
But they're all doing bits and pieces of things, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's just hard.
man, there's a lot to discuss. I mean, every time every time you come on, and I know you probably gotta get going. You're in an investigator meeting right now.
Yeah,
The Wi-Fi has been surprisingly great. So,
yeah. I think I'm using the phone one, so
uh,
definitely.
that
Yeah, I
explains it.
don't,
Those
I don't,
hotel
I
Wi-Fi
don't,
is awful, man.
I I never pick up any outside Wi-Fi ever.
Yeah, and you probably get hacked too. But
Yeah.
Dr. Bughara, I really appreciate it. Um, yeah, we could love having you on. And anyone that wants to connect, obviously he very hands-on, owner operator, knows what he's doing. His LinkedIn's underneath. And It's a great conversation with you, and I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate for inviting me as well, and looking forward to connecting with you in person sometime soon. If you're
That's
coming
right.
to Dallas, please.
Next SOS is February in in San Diego.
That's too far.
Yeah, but you love San Diego. Well, you're there right
I,
now.
uh,
Um, we
but
have
yeah, I'll be
Irvine.
here.
Oh, you know what? We're gonna do Houston sometime in the fall for Save Our Sites, like a small meetup. We do
Yeah,
small
that would be
meetups
nice.
besides the big ones. There's gonna be either a Dallas or Houston. I have to ask Ashley.
Let's do Dallas because I think more sites in Dallas than and it's
You'd be
easier.
surprised. Houston's got a bunch, man.
True, but
Are you
I
out
think
there
big
yet?
networks in there. What in Houston?
Yeah.
We looked at some opportunities, but then we're looking at some of the networks have a very good sites.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know. You don't
and
want to
they're
mess
doing
with some of
very
those.
well. So there's no point of creating that environment
What about
where
in that border area of Texas or Rio Grande?
I looked at those as well
Yeah,
in couple of them, in talks with couple of them, but at some point you also want to look at the access, how easy to in and out of flying and all those things when you're developing network
that's
and
hard.
creating the
That is hard.
ecosystem out of it.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
issue with that. A place like Yuma too. Yuma has a Dallas nonstop. Dallas to Yuma. There's a nonstop flight.
Right.
Um, all right, lots to talk about, man. But thank you so much, Dr. Baghara, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And everyone, go connect with him right now. His LinkedIn's underneath. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.